Hey guys, so you've asked and asked and asked, and finally the time has come. I am talking about Hellboy the Crooked Man. So for those of you who don't know, I am a super hardcore Hellboy fan. In fact, in my humble opinion, Hellboy is the greatest comic book character of all time. That's how much I love the character. So when a new Hellboy adaptation comes out, immediately I start getting requests. Um, and they usually lean towards either, oh my God, what did you think of this movie? What did you? I thought it was great. Do you agree? Or holy shit, that was freaking horrible. Please bust this movie. This one, however, the vibe was completely different. Uh, Not only did I not get as many requests to talk about this movie as I did uh, for the previous Hellboy movie, the 2019 one, but the overall vibe was completely different. It just felt like um, my dog had died and people were trying to politely ask me to talk about it. That's the vibe that I was getting from all the requests. It's like, hey, Erod, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you, but I'm really curious. But you don't have to if you don't want to. If you don't feel comfortable, it's okay. Could you talk about Hellboy the Crooked Man? But again, if this makes you feel depressed, please don't talk about it. But I just really curious, since you're a Hellboy fan, if you could talk about it. And that's that was the vibe that I was getting. And man, and let me tell you, it was from the very beginning, from the moment the movie was announced, because everybody could feel that this was a downgrade. The fact that they rebooted the franchise so quickly after the 2019 version, and no major studio was attached, no major movie stars were attached, nobody from the original movie was attached, not for the previous movie was attached. Um, it just it felt off, and Matthew Buck, Film Brain, early on uh, surmised that they were probably rushing a movie into production just to hold on to the Hellboy rights. Now, most film rights for characters and franchises uh, I believe, are 4 to 6 years. So every 4 to 6 years, the studio or the company that's currently holding the rights to the IP has to release something using the character. Okay? Um, that's why we got the two Hellboy movies, the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies, and two animated movies in between so quickly and quick. It felt like quick succession, but there was enough space in between those so the rights wouldn't expire and they could continue um, creating adaptations using the Hellboy intellectual property. Um, and it seemed like whatever deal they had to make a sequel to the 2019 Hellboy fell through, and so they rushed this into production instead. And I have to say, I'm pretty sure that Buck is right. I'm pretty sure that uh, his notion is correct. Now, I usually like to cut through the bull and go ahead and tell you guys a straight answer as far as the quality of the movie. So I won't waste your time any longer. Is this movie good or bad? It's bad. However, here's the twist. I don't think that it's as bad as the 2019 Hellboy. That movie seriously deserved to be busted. Um, and it's a, and I especially feel that way because that movie has no excuse to be as bad as it is. That movie had all the resources, all the money, all the opportunity to be the best possible Hellboy movie that could have been made without Guillermo del Toro directing it and Ron Perlman playing Hellboy. Okay, they had everything at their disposal and they still fumbled the ball. Um, this, however, They did not have all the resources. They did not have a big budget. Their budget was $20 million. That's it. That's like that's the budget for one episode of your standard action adventure fantasy primetime series. Um, Not even on the same level as the Flash, like below the next level under the CW Flash. Um, that's small. Just to put it into perspective, even more perspective than the one I just gave you. Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a movie with a moderate budget and that had action and special effects and a lot of spectacle in it. That movie, that very successful film with all those special effects and all that spectacle, was still $31 million. It was still $11 million more than this movie. And this is a major, major franchise, okay? Um, Hellboy rakes in major, major revenue for Dark Horse, almost as much, if not more, than Star Wars. Assuming Star Wars is still with Dark Horse, I'm pretty sure it still is. Um, so it's kind of ridiculous. And I also read that the director, Brian Taylor, had to create the opening title of the movie. And he did it like a classic, like Hammer horror movie title where it pops up and it has all the trademarks at the bottom and everything. And it's funny because when I saw that, it just felt like, oh, okay, I guess that's the best they can do. As opposed to Werewolf by Night, that use the exact same motif, but there it feels purposeful. It feels like, oh, that's a fun little nod to like classic horror movies. Here it felt like, okay, I guess that's as good as they could do it. And yeah, so Brian Tyler created that opening title slate for the movie on After Effects at his house because the production ran out of money. Oh man. So why is this movie, in spite of it being bad, slightly better than the 2019 version? Well, for starters, this, out of the four existing live action Hellboy movies, this is the one that feels the most like an actual Mike Mignola Hellboy comic. Like the vibe, the moments, the scenes, all of that is there. It's just that, unfortunately, this movie, it's just missing that. It's just missing that last 25%. It's just missing. The best way I can explain it is that this movie has no personality. None. It reminds me a lot of the Underworld movies, where those movies are all style, no substance. It's like really cool visuals, really good looking people, really good special effects, really good makeup effects, but ultimately they just have no personality. They are just a blank slate. And that's the way I felt about this movie. It just has no personality. It has no soul. But occasionally, if you're a super hardcore Hellboy fan like myself, you will see something, recognize something that reminds you of the comic, and you appreciate all the effort that went into recreating that on the screen. But it just feels completely disconjointed. Like there's no love behind the creation of this piece. Unlike the Guillermo del Toro movies, where you could tell that Guillermo del Toro poured his soul into every single scene, every single moment in those two movies. Whether you agreed with them or not, whether you liked the movies or not, you could tell that every second of footage from those films were made with passion. Here, I don't feel like there was any passion whatsoever. It feels like Brian Taylor and the creators of this film were given an assignment. Here, make a hour and a half Hellboy movie with $20 million. Go. And that's it. And they just did their job. They fulfilled their assignment. Um, I keep knocking things off of this table. I need to stop putting things there. Anyway, um, so yeah, so how do I feel about Jack Kessie as Hellboy? He is good sometimes. It feels weird because there are very brief moments for about a minute or two where he's like, he's got it, he's Hellboy. And then the rest of the time, he's just like, comes across like a very annoyed Mickey Rourke, pissed off because he has all this shit glued to his face. That's the way he comes across. Um, and he's not a bad actor. It's just that, I don't know, he's only Hellboy sometimes, a fraction of the time. It's weird. It feels like they either didn't direct him or they didn't settle on how he was going to portray the character. He never quite figured out how he was going to play the character, so he was trying different things every time, and sometimes it would work fantastically, and he would nail it, and then the rest of the time, he was just saying his lines, and like there's a moment at the very, very beginning when him and Bobby Joe Song, they fall out of a train. That's how the movie starts. They fall out of a train after fighting a giant spider, which was kind of cool until the giant spider showed up and it was the worst freaking creature CG I've ever seen. And they fall out of the train and he's talking like Hellboy. He's has the swagger. He's doing his thing. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then suddenly he has one line at the very end, the line that puts the button on the scene, where Bobby Joe says, "How do you know that there's something evil in these woods?" And he says, "Dark things recognize dark things." And it felt like a completely different character said that. It felt completely out of character. Like, he had the swagger, like, he doesn't care, he's Hellboy, to him this is just a job, and then suddenly, he delivers a line, he delivers a line for the trailer. You know what I mean? It's like, this time it's personal. Dark things recognize dark things. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, what was that? So it was like that, where he'd be the character very briefly, and the rest of the time, the other thing that it reminded me of is that a long time ago, I listened to a 7-minute recording of Robin Williams playing the genie from Aladdin, but unedited, just the raw audio from the one and only session where they brought in Robin Williams for a full day, for two 4-hour sessions, and they just let him go. They went over the script a bunch of times, and they just let him ad-lib as much as he wanted. And I listened to just 7 minutes of those 4-hour sessions where they recorded Robin Williams for Aladdin, and unedited, let me tell you something. He didn't always come across as the genie, like he hadn't quite figured out the character yet, and also it was pretty damn annoying. Um, and he said a few bits that ended up in the movie, but it's just jokes back to back and just long bits that don't go anywhere. Where he started to try and create a moment, create a joke, and it just didn't work, and just things like that. So this felt like that. Like, this was Joe Kessie, and they didn't edit him, they didn't direct him, they didn't give him the guidance to deliver a uniform performance, and that's what that felt like. This felt like the unedited version of his performance. I hope that explains it. Anyway, so the other thing is that, and some people have accused this of it being like a cheap pilot for a TV series, for primetime TV series, or like an original Sci-Fi Channel movie, and I would like to challenge that, even though it's hard to debate that. It's hard to debate the validity of those claims, but I would like to add and challenge a little bit to that. And I just want to say that it feels like a series of film shorts. That's what it feels like. It just feels like Here's a bunch of shorts that a bunch of film students made. Hellboy shorts that a bunch of film students made, and we compiled them together with some nice little moments to like bridge them together. But it just doesn't feel uniform. Like there's no flow or style. It's just here's the next thing, and here's the next thing, and here's the next thing. I just recently made a video talking about, just last month, talking about Captain America Brave New World and how clunky that movie felt, and how you could tell what was shot during the original production schedule and what was shot during the pickups. And it felt clunky. This is even worse than that. It just feels like just separate pieces that have even less flow than Captain America Brave New World, if you can believe that. And then on top of that, on top of all that, it doesn't feel like the movie has an ending. The movie just stops suddenly. It's like Hellboy, they get corralled in the church, and they can't leave the church, but then suddenly they can. And Hellboy's like, I'm gonna go to the Crooked Man's house, and I'm gonna fight him. And he leaves. And they know that he's gonna die, and they have to figure out a way to make sure that he doesn't die. So Bobby Joe is like, we need to cut off his power supply. He gets his power from the mines somehow. Okay. I need to get to the mines. And then the preacher goes, well, guess what? Right here in this church where we've spent a good 40% of this movie already, there is a tunnel that leads right into the mines. Convenient? So she goes into the tunnels and does something, and that cuts off the Crooked Man's powers, and I'm sure it's explained. It's just, it's one of those things, guys, where this is a very visual franchise, and having the characters just explain things is idiotic when there's so much around them that they could use visually to establish things. So I'm sure that these things are explained. It's just they're not shown to the audience visually, so they don't stick. So she goes down there and does something, and that cuts off the Crooked Man's powers, who was very powerful and had Hellboy on the ropes for the first 2 acts of the movie, and then Hellboy just shoots him in the head with his regular gun, not even a special bullet or anything, and his head blows off and coins come out, and that's it. He's dead. There was no special way of killing that guy, or at least there didn't appear to be. And one thing that is consistent in Mike Mignola's Hellboy stories is that, very much like in traditional folklore and legends, each creature, each monster, each adversary has a very particular Achilles heel. You know, what the vampires being wooden stake, and werewolves being silver bullets, and witches and fairies being iron. Hence the reason why Hellboy usually always carries a horseshoe, an iron horseshoe, on his tool belt. But here it's just Hellboy just shoots him in the head and blows part of his head off, and it just felt it just seems like something anybody could have done. Like they really didn't need Hellboy to do this. It's just these people didn't have the initiative to go into tunnels, cut off his power supply, and then go over there with a gun and shoot him. And then it just feels like the movie just stops. Like it just doesn't have a legitimate ending. Like, oh, we ran out of money, we better stop shooting. Okay, it ends here. Hellboy shoots him in the head, the end. Like that famous story from Raiders of the Lost Ark where allegedly the reason Indy shoots the guy with the big scimitar is because Harrison Ford was sick, and he just wasn't physically capable of doing the fight sequence. So Spielberg or somebody said, oh, why doesn't he just shoot the guy? And he did. So it felt like that. It's like, okay, ran out of money. Why doesn't he just shoot the guy? That's what it felt like. Whether you believe that Raiders of the Ark story or not, it's debated. It's constantly debated whether it's real or not. Anyway, so there you go. And a big highlight in the movie for me was Joseph Marcel as Reverend Watts, the blind reverend that helps him out in the movie. For those of you who don't know or don't remember, Joseph Marcel is most famous for playing Jeffrey on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the butler, the one that got all the best lines in the show. Super charismatic guy, super talented, one of the best character actors of all time, super underrated. It was wonderful to see him in a movie, especially a Hellboy one, even if it was one that was not very good. So yeah, it's bad, but still not as bad as the 2019 one. There you go. Those are my opinions on Hellboy the Crooked Man. Agree, disagree? Feel free to say so in the comments section below. And now for most of your favorite part of the video, the announcement. Right now on my Patreon page, more Cobra Kai. I am counting down my top 10 favorite Cobra Kai fights. So if you want to find out what they are and you also want to join in the conversation, maybe share what your favorite Cobra Kai fights are, but you're not a patron, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/erod and pledge $1. That's it. You pledge $1, you're helping me to continue to create content, and in return, you get bonus videos. You can't beat that with a wooden stick. And now for the big super announcement, the one that you guys are always on pins and needles wanting to find out. You asked me before I even post these videos, what is going to be my next honest review, and that will be on a show that I should have reviewed ages ago, but things kept getting in the way. No more stalling. I'm doing it in just a few weeks. I am officially doing an honest review of Unicorn Warriors Eternal, another awesome Gendy Tartakovsky show that unfortunately not enough people are talking about, so we're going to change that. We're going to talk about it. So that is coming in just a few short weeks on this very YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your ongoing support and for your concern about my emotional being when asking me to talk about Hellboy the Crooked Man. Everything's fine. I'm okay. I'm okay to talk about not so good movies starring characters that I love very much. I'm okay with that, guys. But thank you for your concern. I deeply appreciate it. And I especially appreciate your continuous, ongoing, unshakable loyalty and support, because I could not do what I do without you.